Good day. This is more review from last year. If you remember last year, this sheet was very confusing, and then it became straightforward when we did quite a few examples. So the way the game worked was, on the left side you figured out the number of valence electrons you had to play with, that you would be installing into your molecule or ion. If it happened to be an ion, if it was a negative ion, you get more dots to play with. If it was a positive ion like ammonium, you'd have to take away a dot, an electron. Then the second step was to figure out how many electrons each element in the compound or ion wanted in a perfect world if it could be on its own. Step 3 was finding the difference between these two numbers, bigger minus smaller, dividing by 2 because there are 2 electrons per bond, and from that you would figure out A, how many electrons you had to play with in one, and 2, how many bonds. And then you would start trying to make things fairly symmetrical, loading in the dots, making sure things like hydrogen had 2 electrons. Most other elements had 8 electrons around them. And things like typically carbon would have 4 bonds, no lone pairs. Nitrogen would have 3 bonds, 1 lone pair. Oxygen would have 2 bonds and 2 lone pairs. And something like chlorine would have 3 lone pairs and just 1 bond. And then we would move to structural diagrams, something we're going to be doing more heavily in this course. So if you need some examples, I'll have to find those other videos and post them again. But this is stuff you're supposed to know from last year in Science 10.